just have a look. Right, so the battle report for for solo number one. It's a draw. Points difference is slightly in favor of the British, so that's mainly dependent on losses. Germany lost 88 men. Britain lost 94. So, okay, well, is the example of that they lost more men, but those were cheaper. Make it sound crass. They were cheaper men. Well, the unit cost was less, to be more accurate. So even though they took more losses, and this is the thing that you face as playing as Germany in the Honest Mud. It's balanced historically, not for play balance. So historically, Germany was always outnumbered pretty much everywhere, every front, every battle, every time. There were. I'm trying to think if the Western Desert was any time they were not. I think even there they were not. So it's a case of because it's historically balanced, the enhanced mod, you're always going to be outnumbered as Germans, no matter what you do. No matter how you try to stretch your budget, you're never going to have enough. Because if it's a 1,000-point battle, if it's a 2,000-point battle, then yeah, Germany would get adequate resources, but then Britain would have twice as much stuff as they have here. So still outnumbered. Nothing you can do about it. So this is significant. I mean, the fact that they took more losses has to be weighed against the fact that those units cost less. Those men cost less. So, okay, and they also Germany lost a soft vehicle. Oh, Kugelwagen, right? And they had a tank destroyed, which is probably what tipped the balance here, I think. That's probably what tipped the balance. This loss is probably the significant factor here, because that's the most costly thing. The tanks are the most costly things on the map. Britain lost an APC. Yeah, okay, I remember. I know which one we're talking about. Yeah, that was fairly early on in the battle. That was in the south flank. Yeah, they're not that expensive. That was a Bren carrier, I think. Not a specialized one, just a regular. Otherwise, it would be. Well, obviously, it was an APC because it's in the APC row. Duh. But it's the tank here that changed the balance. If it wasn't for this tank, this balance might even be closer. The points levels might even be closer, and there's a small possibility Germans might have come out ahead, because that's a 40-point difference, and that's about. I think that tank is worth about 50 or something like that. So yeah, Germany might be out ahead by 10 points. Not a big difference, but that's how close it gets, right? So anyway, because I'm glad there's a draw, because there was at points in the battle I was thinking maybe I wasn't playing. I was biased towards one side, and I'm glad that I wasn't. However, the battle was quite boring. If I'm honest, that is. That is the result of not reading the map properly, not looking at the map and seeing that, oh, these victory X's are worthwhile. We should fight over them. So my mindset was that no, we won't be advancing on these. It's not worth it. And obviously they were. And 90 points is definitely worth fighting over. 90 points would easily have compensated for, an extra victory X would easily have compensated for that loss of that tank, and would have pushed the balance back to the German side. So 90 points, definitely worth fighting over. I think anything over 50 is probably worth fighting over. Actually, maybe even anything over 30, because platoon sections are worth about 20 to 30 points. So anything over 30 is probably worth fighting over if you're taking a lot of losses in one area of the map. However, if you're going to take a lot of losses, more losses fighting over those, then gaining that extra 30 points back, maybe it's not worth it. It depends what you lose. I mean, if you only lose one, when you lose one or two men in each squad, then well, sure it was. It sure is worth it, but you can't always count on that. Um, so I guess I would probably put it around 50, because just to be safe, if it's 50 points or higher, it's worthwhile fighting over. 50 points or lower, no, you're probably not going to be pushing too hard on each victory X. On this map, I did the same mistake for the Germans. I split them up too much. Should have focused on the center, or maybe well, taking the center had two clusters of victory X's. One that was actually on this battle. We can actually look at the map, because yeah, we know what the passwords are. Yes, we don't have to talk about this thing in an abstract way. It's the one advantage of the solo. So here we go. So in the center, we count these. I'm going to count these as in the center. I mean, this was easy for the Germans to take, so that was an obvious choice. Which leads to being wanting to take those. Perhaps I should have ignored those. I don't know, and not wasted an entire platoon on that, and just maybe kept that platoon back here instead, and have the British advance towards me. I don't know where I could have put them though, because I mean, obviously, potential victory axes are way over here. Um, so defending that would be tricky. So this is the thing. Like when deciding what to do, that was a good choice. I mean, that was easy to take. And I got over here, and because hadn't considered how I'm going to take those, because I wasn't planning on fighting over them. I got stuck, right? And that's the problem. So almost, poor unit choice really is this, the the reason the battle got bogged down, because it took a very long time for the Germans to get up to that position, and actually for the British as well. I mean, they could have used the engineers could have been very useful placing mines on these victory axes once they were taken, but they just took too long to get up there. So they needed to be in transport or something, which would have cost them extra points. But I think the British could probably have afforded that. So for this battle, probably you're looking at some kind of a fast unit to get the battle going get close to the enemy in the center. Both sides would have needed that, because both sides would have needed to advance in the open here. So not trucks probably, because they kind of not that easy. So probably a lot more for the British, a lot more Bren carriers. For the Germans, I don't know, probably half tracks, but again, that's kind of half tracks are quite expensive. They're more expensive than a Bren carrier. A Bren carrier is about 10 or 11 points maybe. I think we can see any prices here. Will it show? No. Here we go. Actually, no, I'm wrong. The brain carry is quite expensive. Okay, but that's the cost. There's a difference in cost of. This is not how much they cost when you buy them, right? This is the cost of. This is the value of them if they're destroyed completely. So that's quite high. I didn't really think that would be the case. 24 points. They got to be pretty close to what's the name then? Close to off track, German off tracks. I think German off tracks probably worth more than that. Because they're German units, not because they're significantly better. Remember the enhanced mod is balanced for historical balance, not for it's not balanced to be to balance as a player balance, right? You're not going to get even like at 1,000 points. You're not going to get evenly matched battles. You're not going to get exactly the same amount of units, etc. Makes it a bit more difficult to play, but also more interesting, I think. Okay, so yeah, this is the thing for the Germans. Transport would have been better. I mean, we if we put them in half tracks, and obviously they can move up a lot faster. But then what? I mean, that's half tracks. Let's say are costing half the cost of an infantry squad. So that's gonna eliminate, and one platoon takes 5 half tracks to transport them. Um, that would eliminate an entire platoon. That's quite a lot. Because uh, well, when you're purchasing them, a German half-track platoon is 45 points or something like that. One platoon is 85 points, so you've lost half a platoon, which you can't get. So you're basically losing a whole platoon. Now you may find something cheaper that you could add to that. So being mobile at 1,000 points for the Germans is very tricky. I can't see how it can be done. Um, yeah, hopefully, when I eventually do get around back to playing again against uh, playing actual battles, I'll get a sense of how, because I'm definitely getting my opponent to play Germans. Um, he's already agreed, so it'd be a good change for him because he hasn't played them in any of our battles for a long time. But I want to see what he does on different kinds of maps, right? Have to be careful though. I don't want to have him get bored, and only playing the Germans. So we have to swap things around quite a bit. So there was something there. There was a German unit guarding that. It was only a scout though, so you never know. Scouts can, as we saw in the play-by email, scouts do carry grenades in these open-top vehicles, so they're not exactly difficult to take out. Yeah, okay, so open maps, pain in the ass at 1,000 points because you really need a lot more transport. It's great if one side has, if both sides have cheap armor, but you don't have that with the Germans. They don't have cheap vehicles at all. They're like this. I mean, their trucks are cheap, but you can't move trucks up to that position very easily. So it's just the limitations of it. I think what would be interesting is to try the stock game and see what the differences is. So I haven't played any points battles in a stock game, so that might be helpful learning experience as well. But it'd be very different to the enhanced mod. So I don't know if that's worthwhile. What else can we look at here? I think that's about it. Again, the solo battles are all about gaining experience, being able to try stuff out, and playing against an opponent of equal skill and experience, which is very difficult to get in the current environment of Steel Panthers World at War. All of the players that are currently playing it and are still playing it are vastly more experienced and skilled than I am. So it's not, I can't. So it's been suggested to play against play the Academy Depot modules. I mean the tutorials. Those are very the first tutorial was very good. I learned a lot about recon and the value of it because some things like that really clarified a lot of how recon should be used, which unfortunately I'm not doing very well in some of the battles, mainly because I'm trying to, because the nature of deploying very far forward and so on, the recon is not doing. There's no recon phase that you would normally get in a battle like this. If you're deploying at a reasonable distance because you can move things up quickly, then you have a recon phase where the recon moves forward and figures out where the enemy is, and you figure out how you're going to approach it, and where your vehicles are going to move and things like that. Because I was deploying in the last few battles, I've been deploying very far forward. and now my opponent is starting to do the same thing because I'm doing, he doesn't want to be left too far behind. If I'm approaching Victor X's, you know, 2 turns earlier than he is, then that's going to disadvantage him. So he's deploying very far forward as well, at the maximum we can, which in a generated map is the visibility. So you can deploy right on the start lines, and nobody will be able to see each other. You don't always get that on a designed map for in a points battle. So yeah, so the battle is starting to get hot very, very quickly, and it's not really for inexperienced players such as myself. It's not easy to get that recon done. So my recon has been very weak in the last 2 battles. Um, Something to work on, I guess. I mean, if I deployed further back, then I'm giving up a lot of ground, and that that doesn't really gain me that much. Again, it depends on the map, maybe. I mean, if the map doesn't, if just the victory X's are not valuable, and I was there under 50 points, say, then perhaps um, deploying further back and doing proper recon and so on. Let the opponent take the victory X's because they're probably not going to matter that much in the end. Uh, who knows? I mean, random maps are great in that regard. You have to kind of figure that out every single time. But maybe that's too much for a beginner. I don't know. I mean, I have discussed whether to use generated maps with my opponent, but it basically devolved into a discussion of what kind of map do you want to play on? Well, I don't know. I don't really care. you know, so I tried to get him to pick appropriate maps for each one, but it didn't work out. I mean, this discussion was going on too long, so I just said forget it. We'll just play a random map because it gets the battle going faster, and then gets to the more interesting part of the whole. I guess the whole point of doing these things. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to know. Like if I'm being asked what kind of map do I want to use, then that's not very helpful because I don't know. So anyway, I think I've looked at this enough and given enough uh, background as to why things are the way they are. Um, any tips and pointers? Please let me know. Uh, so that's the end of this of solo number 1. Okay, and that's sadly going to be the